So, Mr. Perry, you're here in Tallinn first time, or you've been here before?
No, I've never been here before. I must confess, it's my first visit to Estonia.
What is your impression?
Good, very good, despite the weather. But I've been in Ireland for 5 years, so I'm used to bad weather.
So, what would you improve in Tallinn as a filming location, if you would?
Oh, I wouldn't want to say that. I don't know enough yet.
So
I
much.
saw too little of it. No, but I tell you, I think my experience in Ireland told me that small countries are strong, particularly if they work together. And I would strongly recommend that the Baltic countries, the neighboring countries, the Scandinavian countries, as much as possible work together. But also I think, you can easily make alliances with bigger countries. Within Europe, I think there's a lot of advantage to being a small country. You can work more quickly, there's less bureaucracy, things are easier.
You said you wrote an article for Variety, and you've been in the major industry side of things. How do you see, does Estonia have any chance in getting their foot into the major film industry side of things?
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, because there's a very specific culture here. There's a strong local voice, you could say, of this part of the world. And filmmakers with the confidence to make films with their own voices, there's no reason, whether they come from a big country, a small country, from Europe or anywhere else, no reason why they can't succeed. I mean, that's the great thing is, as a matter of fact, the world is the same size for everybody, and film is a global medium. You make a film, it can go across the world. We discovered this in Ireland. We made a tiny film called Once, which cost 250,000 euros to produce, and it was sold to 60 countries. And it took an image of Ireland, of Dublin, of Irish people and Irish music right across the world. So, the fact that Ireland is a small place was no problem to that film.
You see, Estonia is in a transitional phase at the moment, so to say. You're putting together a film commission, building film studio. How do you see the film incentives should go? How would you tell the government, who may need to raise pensions, they may need to raise teachers' wages, to rather put the money into influencing the film industry? What would the country get out of it if they invested in film?
Well, a lesson that we learned in Ireland, and which the government's economists learned also and were prepared to accept, was that culture, arts, whether it's music or theatre or film, is actually not expensive. But if you invest in those things, then those things can carry an image of the country right across the world and can make a country seem familiar to diplomats, to business people, and to tourists. So you put a small amount of money into a country's arts and you have a huge return. You can't always measure that return. Sometimes it's difficult to say exactly how many euros it is that comes back. But everybody knows that something comes back when diplomacy is easier, when trade is facilitated, and when tourists come to your country. These are the returns. They're what we call invisible earnings, but they're very real earnings.
You see, we are not an English language country. Do we need to be focusing in the English language market?
I tell you, it's not necessarily an advantage to speak English, because it means your market is very, very much more vulnerable to the films from Hollywood. Much better to make films in your own language. It's a longer story, but I promise you that to speak English is not necessarily an advantage. And to make films in English that should not be made in English is the biggest mistake you can make.
Thank you. Thank you very much.